Every month, Makerere University spends about 6.1 billion shillings just on salaries and allowances. This means every year the university uses about 80 billion shillings on this item. This accounts for nearly 75% of the university's total budget. And when the university fails to pay, the chain of strikes set off by the academic staff, students, because they are not being taught, and then non-academic staff who feel that their counterparts are favored. And yet, beyond the friction, there are underlying issues afflicting the 94-year-old university, Uganda's oldest institution of higher learning. Former Executive Director of the National Council for Education, Professor Nduhukire, who is now Research Associate at Makerere, says the institution's leadership structure, like that in other public universities, is old and has outlived its usefulness.
What we need right now is a new model of governing public universities that will not give the burden to either the university system or the government. And to me, that model is that public universities should be chartered.
The Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act of 2001 is the law governing universities in Uganda. But former Makerere Vice-Chancellor Professor Makerere says this law has contributed to Makerere's problems. He says it's weak and does not give university councils, the highest governing bodies, the teeth to bite. At least 13 of the 22 Makerere council members are staff. The former Vice-Chancellor says this is a case of a monkey deciding whether the forest should burn.
You need to have only the Vice-Chancellor as a member of the governing council, the governing board, and then get another 8 or 10 members from outside the university. But those members must be people with the qualification and experience in managing a university.
The former Makerere Computer Science Don says the Makerere University Academic Staff Association and the Association of Non-Teaching Staff wield a lot of power and put the administrators at ransom.
All the constitutions of staff associations at Makerere have not been approved by council. So what they contain is what they want. Recently we were talking about the quorum. How many people do you need to take a decision? Even 30, 40, 50 members of academic staff can meet and take a decision that's binding on the whole university. When you have over 15,000 academic staff, and that's the cause of some of the strikes, council has no upper hand over what staff or students do.
Analysts also point to alleged cliques and external influence on university administrators, which derails the institution.
Makerere has its own cliques. There are certainly no-go areas. In terms of, for example, when you are selecting a vice-chancellor, there are certainly groups that feel they should be the ones to manage the institution.
Makerere University is largely funded by government, and there have been calls to have the state take over the entire wage bill. Professor Kasozi says this must change.
Money of the university should not be directly linked with the Treasury. The Treasury should give a grant, of course passed by Parliament, to the universities, and that money should be distributed to the universities by a competent body, so that the government knows that each year there is this amount of money to the government.
According to Article 31, Clause 2 of the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act, the Vice-Chancellor shall be appointed by the Chancellor on the recommendation of the University Council from among 3 candidates recommended by the Senate.
Through which these leaders are got should be similar to how, for example, they get a lead of a big company, a big corporation. You don't just go to the workers of the company and you pick one. You know, you advertise and you go for the best candidate out there. But for Makerere and these other public institutions, you get into these professors. Many of them are not trained managers.
Because like in the law, there are no requirements for a vice-chancellor. So council must come up with clear statutes to ensure that the vice-chancellor they get the kind of vice-chancellor they want. But you see, because council is heavily academic, you know, majority are from within the institution, they always ensure that even if they come up with a policy, it is pro-academicians within the university.
But Makerere also advised on the contentious incentives debate.
The council should get out of it, let each college provide an incentive on the basis of what is generating. Like it should be a performance-based kind of enhancement. But for the center to sit and say, we are going to provide 70% across board, it does not work. because the ones who are generating it will withdraw from it and then you will not have it.
And yet, all these concerns are reflected in numerous reports like the Makerere report of 2007, the Nduhukire report, the Mamdani Treatise, and the 2011 Professor Francis Omata report on strikes.
I served on the Makerere committee. I did most of the drafting. I wasn't the secretary, but I did a lot of drafting of that report. Most of these things are there. I think it's the implementation and the fear of new ideas.
President Yoweri Museveni recently appointed a committee to study the issues ailing Makerere. The committee, chaired by former Makerere biochemistry don and Deputy Chairman of the National Planning Authority, Dr. Abel Rendeire, is expected to present its report by February 2017. But questions linger to whether the Rendeire report will not gather dust on some government shelves like previous reports. Sheila Nduhukire, NTV.